have the sort of horror element of this story be about kind of like girl-on-girl hate, envy, romantic jealousy. Those are all very frightening concepts to me.
I think there's a famous quote, I don't know who said it, but you know, it's like I can protect myself from my enemies, but God save me from my friends.
There's something about girls and girlhood and teen girl adolescence that's very cruel.
How could I ever be insecure? I was the snowflake queen.
Yeah. 2 years ago when you were socially relevant.
I am still socially relevant.
And when you didn't need laxatives to stay skinny.
And I feel like that's sort of what this movie is exploring.
Leave.
The assumption that cruelty is a part of normal interaction with your best girlfriends.
Women are in constant competition with one another, always, even when they love each other. And I think it's a sickness, and I think it's fucked up, and I think it's something that's depicted perfectly in this film.
Megan is extremely focused, totally hooked into something about that character's ability to make you feel special and dismiss you at the same time. It's a very special quality to have.
You're totally jello. You're lime green jello, and you can't even admit it to yourself.
I just think she's dynamite. Megan's delivery of the dialogue is so controlled and so offhanded, and it's really cool.
She's equally beautiful as she is funny.
He thinks he's cute enough for me, and that's why he's in retard math.
And can really chop a guy down at the ankles very quickly if need be.
Well, you would think that, Roman, because you are a small-time gomer. Those guys are rank, Jen. Just forget about it.
Amanda Seyfried I've been a fan of ever since I saw her in Mean Girls, really.
I felt like she really made Needy Lesnicki this incredibly kind of conflicted, funny, tragic, rich character.
In my opinion, Needy has become a completely different animal in Amanda's capable hands. Needy becomes Dirty Harry. She has these crazy lines by the end where she's just a tough little bitch. And I love seeing that. I love seeing that transformation. I love seeing a girl in a pink prom dress mouthing off.
The pool scene is sort of the confrontation, finally, that needs to happen between Jennifer and Needy emotionally. And it was probably one of the most planned, kind of, storyboarded and kind of most organized scenes in all of the movie.
We're not a huge budget movie, but what they were able to build and create is just so creepy, and sort of just the idea of nature coming and sort of taking over this like creepy indoor pool.
I didn't think the pool scene was going to look like this at all, judging from what I read in the script, because it was supposed to be outside.
And sort of through the making of the film, we realized, let's bring it indoors. Let's bring it into a location that we can contain indoors, we can heat and warm the pool up. The idea was to make sure the actors had enough of a platform that things weren't going to be in their way like the cold weather.
So we need to move this sequence indoors, which was a huge change from how it had been originally storyboarded.
In the midst of trying to find indoor locations, we came across literally someone's home pool that was an indoor pool that literally had like a whole world of vines crawling inside of it. And so this became the inspiration behind this room.
The designer, Arv, just came up with a concept that made that pool so creepy, even though it was indoors.
This room was a blank white canvas when we walked in. Literally the tile was sparkling clean white. The pool was empty, and he gets to come in and dress this to be, this became the biggest set piece of the whole movie now.
What I realized was that by being indoors, we actually had the opportunity to always have our characters against really interesting textures, beautiful tile, beautiful murals. It's meant to be a decrepit space, and it is, but it's also got something very magical about it.
Johnny helped paint the walls as well. There's huge murals on the walls.
Starfish? No, I painted that starfish. Can you get that starfish? I worked like 3 hours on that.
I get to make out with Johnny Simmons, and I was literally like eating his face. And it was really fun. He is a good kisser. Look, it's John. I was just talking about what a good kisser you are.
Yeah, I kind of am a good kisser. I'm not gonna lie.
He's a really good kisser, and he's look at his drumming skills.
Check this out. All the throwing around and tossing around is very intense, and she's kind of just playing with me like a cat and a mouse kind of thing.
How was it? Was it cool?
Oh yeah, that was freaking sweet.
Half of his neck is entirely prosthetic because she's just eating him. And see, Johnny has to go in makeup for like a half hour and get that put on, and then he gets blood sprayed out of it. When that's filled with blood, it'll be bloody. Like we did that yesterday.
I think the biggest visual effect is Jennifer's jaw that becomes unhinged, detached. It was very important that we shoot as much as we could in camera. Therefore, kind of, turned it over to makeup effects to sort of take the lead on the sequence. Makeup effects in this being Canby and then Mike on set.
Now the script is a lot more intense in regards to some of the gore and some of the designs, and we did an initial pass before my first meeting about the torn jaw and the way the teeth would be and sort of discoloring the skin and having it kind of dark and like weird sort of veins and that kind of stuff. So when we had our first meeting, I showed them some initial concepts. I said, well, here's some early on ideas that I was thinking about.
With Greg, we really sort of explored a lot of ideas, and some of them were much more what you might imagine a kind of demon expression to be. A lot more sort of foaming at the mouth and sort of shark teeth and grosser, frankly.
We went through a variety of conceptual designs in terms of how we wanted to actually execute the jaw sort of tearing and unhinging. And we started talking about the idea that it would be kind of like a snake. And I thought, that would be a really cool idea to sort of have this almost like an involuntary shudder before the jaw unhinges. Everything kind of rippled and then tightened. So we actually did a prosthetic on her neck that had all of these muscles sort of accentuated. And that was part of the transformation.
I knew we wanted there to be a sense of shock and surprise at her transformation, but we found that really making it work technically, we kept kind of erring towards something a little more subtle.
I think that they didn't want her to look too grotesque because she's still one of the leads of the movie, and if it goes too far, then even though she is a monster, she's still supposed to be sexy and young and seductive. Ultimately, what we ended up coming up with was a combination of a prosthetic that Mike Fields applied in Vancouver and a visual effect.
Greg had sent me some Photoshop designs of what Jennifer was going to look like, and it's pretty much this puppet head here is the final design stage of what the Jennifer creature is going to look like. All in here is painted green screen so that Eric and VisuFX can erase that all after the fact. And in the end, Eric does his magic and Megan becomes the creature.
So Leah is one of essentially 5 passes that go together to make the Megan jaw work. When she shows up on set, she will essentially watch Megan perform, and then once we've got Megan's movement down, we'll then add dentures to Megan. She'll do the attack once more with dentures, and then Leah will step in and replicate that move exactly.
And then we put the puppet head in, and Eric in visual effects combines them all together to create Jennifer with this extended jaw.
We have all the same lighting, we have all the same movement, all the same motion blur, we have all the same elements that sort of Megan's versions or passes of the shot will have.
So it's a really, really successful sort of marriage and blending of techniques that I think that worked so well.
Right now they're working on a gag where Jennifer's supposed to vomit all over Chip and me.
That was a whole ordeal, having that vomit machine.
There are tubes coming out the side of her mouth, and then you'll see a side profile of her vomiting all the black paint on us.
The rig actually sits in her mouth. There's a little bite piece here that she bites in her mouth, and that's hidden right behind her mouth.
You can't really gauge where it's going to land, so every time we did it, it was a kind of big surprise for the actors, what was going to end up happening.
I was like, where? Being in the water for 3 days straight, and like for them, especially like 4 days straight, it's like not good for your pores.
I love it, but it was kind of weird.
The crazy thing is, as disgusting as this water looks, it's totally healthy, totally clean. And they were playing in the water a few minutes ago. You saw Amanda and Johnny were both running around and just dancing around in the water, having a ball with it.
The water's really lukewarm and comfortable, and I'm not actually having the worst time ever.
Now that we're done, I can say it was gross. I mean, it was clean water, but it was meant to look disgusting. But then after 3 or 4 days of it being the same water, it was disgusting. I mean, it was really warm in there. There was a lot of live vegetation in there. It started to smell.
I still wonder, is there a shark hiding in the pool?
She can fly.
She's just hovering. It's not that impressive.
There's a big stunt rig where one of our characters comes flying.
You're in an older building like this, which you have no idea what's in these walls and that. So when we do this, we got to get in here the day before or 2 days before. We got to hang our rigging, which is all engineered rigging. We got to go to places within the ceiling, which again, we get engineered to make sure that they can take the loads we're going to put on it.
I love doing stunts. It's my favorite thing to do. I love being covered in blood and shit and puke.
With the levitation that we're doing with Jennifer on this thing, we've put a skate up on the ceiling with a track on it.
She'll be lifted up quite quickly, and then she'll drift down onto the deck, make a landing, and turn around, and the fight kind of continues after a bit of dialogue.
Thought you only murdered boys.
I go both ways.
Will I get impaled with a pool skimmer at one point?
We've got a pool skewer that goes through her. Doesn't kill her, she's a demon.
When Jennifer is impaled, we had a couple of cool sort of collapsing trick props that helped kind of give the sense of real movement. I felt like what I liked about the fact that Jennifer, ultimately, the sort of final showdown is between her and Needy, is that felt organic to the relationship.
They've really outgrown each other. They really don't have anything in common anymore. And yet the two of them, their friendship has endured. And they're kind of at a crossroads in life.
At some point in the process, I realized that every type of boy gets it in this film. You know, the jock gets it, the goth kid gets it, the sweet nerd gets it, and this may be Diablo's revenge on every type of boy she's ever met.
I think she's like the sexy, powerful Japanime, just manga goddess.
I just love human beings. And this movie is about wanting every human being in the world to live in my stomach and be digested.